Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm assuming that you can all hear me. I can see that we still have people joining. It's 9:10, so we'll maybe just give them another minute or so to connect. Okay, it looks like everyone who's attempting to connect has actually made it into the meeting. So I'd like to start off by welcoming you all to the lecture portion of the topics in environmental science. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, the lecture portion is online again this semester. But we're fortunate in a way that I will also be doing your lab section, so I will actually get to meet you guys in person, starting with the lab tomorrow. So maybe just as a small introduction to myself, my name is Stuart McClellan. If you read the welcome section of NDC Connect, you will see that I actually graduated from Durham College in the second graduating class, which was back in 1995. So I would hazard a bet that maybe a lot of you weren't born when I graduated from Durham College, but I graduated in 1995. In 1997, I started Cardinal Environmental Consulting Services. Shortly thereafter, a second division, Cardinal Engineering Services, was started. I am a certified engineering technologist. I am registered through OASAT as an engineering technologist. I'm also a licensed professional geoscientist and also a registered qualified person with the Ontario Ministry of the Environment. So what the professional geoscientist license does is that it allows me to conduct phase 1s and phase 2 environmental site assessments and their associated cleanups. That doesn't mean that when you guys graduate that you cannot do phase 1 and phase 2 environmental assessments. It just means that there must be a qualified person, either a licensed professional geoscientist or a licensed engineer overseeing the projects. Okay, so that's a little introduction to myself. I probably should say that the majority of the work we do is with medium to large industrial clients. We do a whole gamut of environmental services to those clients, everything from environmental compliance approval for air emissions to waste receiving sites to stormwater management. We also do their MPRI annual reporting, the Toxic Reduction Act reporting. So pretty well any environmental service that an industrial client would need, we would provide. So as far as contacting me during the semester, contact me by email. Contact me either directly by email, or I believe there's a way through DC Connect where you can connect me. But one thing that I would like to emphasize right from the beginning is that in my business we deal with a lot of young people coming out of college as employees, and we also deal with them either through the Ministry of the Environment, other government departments, or as staff with some of our clients. One thing I do insist on with anyone who works for me, and I will insist on it with you guys, is the importance of proper business etiquette. So if you need to send me an email for anything, if it starts off with yo bro or yo man, it's unlikely that you'll get a response too expediently. So you need to realize that I believe you're all in your third year. You're going to be graduating at the end of your third year, and you're going to be going out into a business environment. So it's important that you get the business etiquette down, and that any written communication is in a professional manner. So okay, so that's an introduction to me. I'll learn more about you guys as we go through our labs. But I think what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at Zoom. Okay. I believe last semester the college was using Bongo as the method for doing online instruction. They're switching to Zoom. We could actually still use Bongo for another couple of months, but they are transitioning to Zoom. So we're going to do all of our meetings with Zoom. So I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with Zoom. Okay, but maybe let's run through a couple of things that we're going to use in Zoom. So there is a polling function in Zoom. So periodically I will ask you guys questions online, and I'm going to ask you one right now, and then I need you guys to respond to this question and then submit it. Okay, so all of you should have seen a question pop up on your screen right now, and it says, was everyone able to join the meeting without any technical issues? Okay, and I can see that everyone who has answered so far has answered that they had no problems. Okay. All right. So I do realize that this is a bit of a loaded question because we do only have 21 people online. There are some people who have not joined. So one person indicated that no, they were not able to join. Because that person answered the question, I'm assuming that they are online now. But if that person would like to send me an email and just let me know what your issues were, maybe we can work that out. Obviously, the concern is that the other 10 or so people that should be on are not on because they've ran into technical issues. So, okay, so 18 of you had no problems. One had some problems, and it looks like one person did not respond. Okay, so that is the polling function. So periodically we will use polls as we go through the classes. There are several ways that you guys can indicate to me that you have a question, or if you just have a comment. One of them is in the chat function. The chat down along the bottom, I can see that some of you have found the chat function already. But down on the bottom of your screen, there's a chat function. If you just click on that, the chat box will open up, and you can send a chat. Okay. The other way that we can do this is over in reactions. If you click on reactions down along the bottom again, there is a function there to raise your hand. Okay, you can see that hand just popped up in the top left hand corner. By raising your hand, that will indicate to me that you do have a question that you would like me to answer, or at least communicate with you. And then it's up to you guys how you want to convey your question to me. If you want to unmute yourself and speak directly, so the others can hear you, or put it in chat, that's okay. If as we're moving along, you find that I have answered your question, then you would go back and lower your hand, because you no longer need to ask that question. Okay, so I do see that Navdeep still has her hand up. So Navdeep, if you do have a question, if you want to unmute yourself and ask that question now, or just lower your hand. Okay. All right. So Navdeep, we'll just keep working away until Navdeep figures out how to put her hand down. Down in the reactions, there's also some other icons that we will use. You can, if you feel that I have an issue, or sorry, if you feel that I'm maybe going a bit too fast, you could request that I slow down by using one of those icons, or speed up, or if you have to leave, you can click the I'm away icon. Okay, so that is Zoom. it may be new to some of you guys, but hopefully as we move through, we'll all become a lot more comfortable with it. Okay, so now if I could get you guys just for a couple of minutes just to go into DC Connect, and we'll take a look at the course outline. Okay. Okay, so if we go to the content of DC Connect, you will see that there's a course outline in DC Connect. This is the official outline of for this course. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I am going to share my screen. And you should all be able to see the course outline on your screen. Okay, so this is the official school's course outline. It just goes through. It gives us a brief. So apparently someone has figured out the draw function. So yeah, this is the official course outline. It gives us a description of the course, and essentially this course is a combined theory and lab course, which provides instruction on environmental site assessments, site remediation, environmental audits, spill prevention, contingency planning, and emergency response. We're also going to be taking a look at air dispersion modeling, so to understand how we can predict the impact of changing policy on air quality. All right. The lab component is going to include both outdoor field work and indoor labs. The outdoor field work will be done at the beginning of the lab section so that we can get out and get that field work done while hopefully we still have some half decent weather. Okay, the program learning outcomes are listed just above the course description. Okay, your course learning outcomes are listed on this page. The evaluation criteria, this is probably the most important part of the course outline, is that there will be three tests. Term test 1, term test 2, and term test 3. You can see the weighting for each one of those tests. 15 for the first, 12.5 for the second 2 tests. There will be one large assignment, which will be the phase 1 ESA assignment, which is going to have a weighting of 10. A laboratory assignments has a weighting of 30, and the assignment homework has a weighting of 20. So all of those combined will give you 100% of your mark. In the notes, it gives essentially outlines some of the rules, for lack of a better word. I don't believe that lectures are compulsory. It's not compulsory to attend lectures. Last year, I believe the instructors were recording the online lecture, and then they were posting those lectures to DC Connect shortly thereafter. I'm not sure how that's going to work this year. I believe that this lecture is being recorded. Can you guys do something for me? Can you just raise your hands if when you entered this this lecture, did you get a message to say that we were recording? Did anybody hear an audible message to say the lecture was being recorded? Yep. Okay. So Ria just raised their hand. So yeah, a couple of participants raised their hands. So obviously, we are recording. There is going to be a method to post these at some point in time, and I probably will post them. But I don't necessarily want to give an advantage to students who did not attend lectures versus students who did attend the lectures. So they definitely will not be available immediately. All right. So, but the lab portion is mandatory. You must attend the labs. So in the notes section, there is the rules for if you must miss miss a lab, you have to contact me ahead of time, and we have to make some other arrangements. But you cannot be missing every lab and making arrangements to make them up. Okay, so I will be lenient for the first one, but the labs are compulsory. There are no required texts and supplies, and the recommended resources are listed below. All of these resources are available online, and you can access them online. The policies and expectations that runs through, as I said, some absenteeism policies, lab attendance. In here somewhere, we also have some wording about what happens if there are incidents of plagiarism or cheating. I have full confidence in you guys that we're not going to have any cheating or plagiarism, but there are policies in place to deal with that in the event that it does happen. I would much rather see your own work than to see something that has been taken word for word off a website, and it's very easy for us to determine if it is copied word for word from a website, and that by itself is not necessarily wrong, as long as where it's appropriate to use it, it is referenced. Of course, it's not appropriate to copy and paste from a web page into any of the online tests that we have. Okay, so the next section and the bulkiest part of this is the learning plan. It goes through what's going to happen each week, what is going to be taught in the online lectures, and the labs. Okay, so we're going to try and maintain the schedule. We're going to do our best not to fall behind. So there is a it is a fairly heavy course load. There's a fair number of assignments, homework, quizzes that need to do. So I would suggest that you get on the ball right from the get-go, and try and get ahead of your assignments and your homework. Okay, so essentially that's the course outline on DC Connect. Okay, so let me see if I can get back here. And DC Connect, we also have the welcome page. There's a section here on meet your professor. This just gives a little blurb about myself. As you can see from this, when I'm not working in the environmental field of teaching, I enjoy all things bird related and work extensively in American kestrel conservation in Ontario. This is something that is probably important for me to point out to you guys. You have to keep in mind that right now I'm teaching as a partial load professor, but I'm also still running a consulting company in the environmental field. So I can give you guys advice, on, how you can improve your chances of at least getting an interview for a job, right? We have had more than one person that we've hired in our company strictly because of the extracurricular activities they have put in their resume. So anything that you're doing in your personal lives that you think maybe even remotely related to the environmental field, you should get that into your resume. And it's something as an employer who reads every resume that comes into our business, and we do get a lot of them, is that I look for. Yes, your marks at school are important, but also your extracurricular activities are also important. It just shows that you're a fairly rounded person because you do have other issues outside your classes. Okay, so somebody is unmuted. Patel, I can see that Patel is unmuted. I have just muted you, Patel. So if anyone else, I can't see everyone's screen, but if anyone else does not have a red dash through their microphone. If you could just click on that, then mute yourself so that we don't get feedback. Okay, so there's a little meet your professor. The welcome page gives you a bit more information on the course. Okay, gives you a link to DC Connect for students, your third year students. So I'm sure that you guys are quite comfortable in DC Connect, but there is some information there for you, a link for learner supports and a link for course institutional policies. So if you go to that link, you will be able to link through or you'll be able to access all the Durham College policies on student conduct, personal data, academic integrity, and how to cite properly. So those links to those policies have been provided. So there should be no real reason to omit citing work that you turn in. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the labs. The labs are split into two cohorts. We have a lab on Tuesday and we have a lab on Friday. And that's a little less than ideal because what's going to happen, there was no lab on Tuesday, but we do have a lab tomorrow. So we're going to have one lab group that is essentially a week ahead of the other. So that's going to take a bit of juggling as far as me setting deadlines, for assignments or labs or quizzes. If you do see, if you're in the Friday group and you do see that I've put an assignment or a quiz onto DC Connect and the deadline is by the end of the day, Friday, let me know, because probably what I've done is I've added the due date for the Tuesday lab. So I will generally try to give you at least a week to get those quizzes, assignments, and homework back to me. So each lab is 2 hours. 2 hours is not a lot of lab time, and a lot of these labs have a significant amount of work that needs to be done. So it's very important that you're organized ahead of the labs so that you know what the lab involves. So you definitely need to, so the group that's in lab tomorrow, you need to be taking a look at what is the lab. You need to know essentially what we're going to be doing, how we're going to do it. We do not want to be getting to the lab at 10 after 12 tomorrow and everyone pulling out the labs to read them, because you're going to lose most of the time that you have for your field work. So it's important, as I say, make sure you know what lab you're coming into and try to be as organized as you can so that you can get through that. So because of the limited time in the lab, we will start each lecture section with a discussion of the lab, the labs that are coming up. So the Tuesday section needs to keep in mind that you will be essentially a week behind. So when I talk on Thursday about the next week's lab, you will be seeing it on the Tuesday of the following week. Okay, so I just want to run through lab one. Just raise your hands if everybody has actually went in and taken a look at lab one and knows what we're going to be doing when we get to the lab tomorrow. Has anyone actually checked it out? No. Okay. Okay. So Navdeep put a small cross up, so I guess that means she didn't. I guess if nothing else, you're all honest, because apparently nobody has checked out what lab we're doing tomorrow. So lab one tomorrow, let me just get back to my share screen. Okay, so on DC Connect, on the homepage, we can see that the lab for this week, for the first week, is Plant and Wildlife Survey. So as part of this lab, ideally, you will be able to download some apps that will help you identify different species of trees, shrubs, flowers, bushes. If we go to, I may be in the, just give me 1 second to get to the correct lab. Okay, so lab 1, Plant and Wildlife Survey. Okay, so tomorrow we are going to be going out into the forest behind Durham College, and the objective is of that lab is that we're going to identify a variety of plants and wildlife that exist and live in southern Ontario. Okay, so the learning outcomes of this lab is that you guys are going to hopefully identify ways where you can identify plants and wildlife that are common to our area. This lab is also going to assist you in your organization and record keeping skills, because you're going to have to be able to complete detailed and accurate notes of what takes place when you're out in the field. And this is also going to assist you to manage the use of your time and resources effectively, right? Okay, so essentially for this lab, we're going to go out into the forest, and you're all going to identify 15 species of tree, shrub, flower, wildlife. You're going to document each one of those species. You're going to get the exact UTM coordinates of where you found those species. You're going to photograph the species, and you're going to prepare a report to me that includes 15 different plants and animals. Okay. Now, I do understand that if you're going to identify an animal or a bird, it may be very difficult to include photographs of them. But if you feel that you did accurately identify an animal or a bird, feel free to put that into your lab. You're going to identify the plant and the animal by its common name and also by its scientific name. So if you find, for example, a sugar maple, you're going to call it a sugar maple, but in brackets, you're going to put its scientific name, which is Acer saccharum. Okay, so if we could just again, how many of you do you think would be comfortable identifying trees, shrubs, flowers that we find in this this area? Yeah, so it looks like from what I can see that we do have a couple of people who are comfortable. So Curtis, Aaron, and Matthew are quite comfortable. So I do understand that you know, many of you may not be too comfortable in the identification. That's why we guide you to apps and websites that will assist you with the identification. It is important that the identification be correct. Right? We have to be careful when we use apps and websites that they may not be able to identify it to the correct species. It may provide you with 2 or 3 different species, but if you're making a logical argument supported by photographs that for your identification, I certainly wouldn't mark you wrong on that. I just want to go back here, and I will show you, and there is an example of what a completed report will look like. Okay, so this report, you're going to hand in a report, and this example, it's eastern white cedar, Thuja occidentalis. It has the UTM coordinates. It has 4 photographs, and then it has the rationale for identification. Okay, use treebee.ca, which is one of the websites we give you a link to. It tells us that it was a coniferous, and there were no berries visible. Also, I need you to indicate, is this a native species to Southern Ontario? Because when we go into the woods behind Durham College, what we're going to find is that there's going to be a lot of invasive, either invasive or non-native species. I actually did take a walk back behind the college last week, and it was a little disheartening to see the amount of invasive species that are back there. So essentially, your report that you will submit will contain 15 pages with 15 species identified. Okay, all right. So what I want to take a look at right now is we will. Okay, so that is the lab that you will submit. If we scroll further down, you will see that there are apps for identifying plants. Okay, there's 3 apps listed there: Ontario Wildflowers, PlantNet, and Nature ID. Okay, those are 3 apps that you can download onto your cell phones or or other electronic device that you can use to identify plants. A couple of these are easier than others to use. If you look at the Nature ID app, I'll just bring the Nature ID app up on my phone. Nature ID is an app that I use on my phone. But if you can't see where my phone is, Nature ID on your iPhone. One of the things that I like about Nature ID is that you can take a photograph in the field, and you can take that photograph back to your home, and then you can actually use Nature ID on the photograph that you have taken. So if we want to try that for a second. So I was back in the woodlot behind me yesterday, and I took some photographs. You guys should be able to see your photographs. If I take my Nature ID and I snap a photograph from my screen of that app, you will see that, I don't know if you can see this very well, but it says recognition in process, and it has popped up as a paper birch. So I am very familiar with this tree that I took these photographs of, and this tree is definitely not a paper birch. So when the app identifies the suspected species, it will tell you a bit about it. It will tell you about the bark, what the leaf looks like, what the flowers or the fruit of that tree looks like, and you should be able to tell from there that it's giving you the wrong ID. Right, so then you would just you would try again. Okay, that's why it will be helpful when you're out in the field if you take a good photograph of the leaves that you're looking at, any flowers or fruits that particular tree or shrub or flower has. You can see these are the fruits of this particular one right here, and a picture of what the bark looks like. So if this was actually a paper birch, that bark would have gray to white peeling bark, and we can see that clearly is not the case. So we do need to be careful on what that the identification we use is correct. So out of the people who said they were quite comfortable, anyone have any thoughts on what tree this is that I took some photographs of? Yes, no? Okay, so in actual fact, this is a little leaf linden. It's a non-native tree, but it is growing in a woodlot behind me. Okay, so these are the type of photographs that you're going to need to have in your report. So if I go back, unfortunately, I have not figured out how to share another screen without stopping my screen share. But if we go back to DC Connect, you'll see that there's some websites identified at the bottom on how you can identify various trees. And the top one is Treebee. So if we I'm going to share one more screen here. So if we were to go on to Treebee, Treebee will ask you a series of questions. Okay, the first question it asks you is this tree a deciduous tree or a coniferous tree? And of course, a deciduous tree is a tree that has leaves that they will lose in the fall. A coniferous tree is essentially an evergreen. The vast majority of the coniferous trees will maintain their leaves throughout the winter. The exception to that in our area will be a larch, which will drop its needles. But this is a deciduous tree. Okay, it then asks you what kind of leaf did it have? Was it a simple leaf or a compound leaf? In this case, it was a simple leaf. Was the leaf symmetrical or asymmetrical? And it gives you a description of what this is. The base of the leaf starts at the stem spot on both sides of the stem if it's symmetrical. If it's asymmetrical, one side of the base will be lower than the other side. Because I have access to that photograph, I can see that this leaf is very slightly asymmetrical. Okay, so I select asymmetrical. It will ask, is the leaf oval in shape or is it heart shaped? From the photograph, you can see it was heart shaped, and you can see on the right that it popped up with two potential identifications: little leaf linden or an American basswood. Both of these trees are very similar. If we click on the little leaf linden, it tells us a little bit about it. It tells us that it's non-native. It describes the leaf, the fruit, and the seed. If you click on the fruit and the seed, you can see they're very similar to what was in my photographs, and it will tell you a bit about the bark. Right? Okay. The bark photographs are they're a bit harder. I mean, barks on trees. Yes, you can generally say the bark is smooth or the bark is rough, but it does vary significantly between trees. Our other option was the American basswood, and this could have been an American basswood. If you can see, they're both lindens, right? The difference being the American basswood or the American linden is native. Right. The major difference and the major way that you can tell the difference between them is the symmetry of the leaves. See how the lobe on this leaf drops substantially below the lobe on this side. Whereas on the little leaf linden, I'm not sure if it will tell us much about the leaf, but it tells you here it's only slightly asymmetrical. Right, so that's how you would that is how you would use Treebee to help you. Okay, so we need to find 15 different trees, shrubs, flowers. I took a walk in the woods behind the college. It's probably 2 weeks ago now, and I had found and identified 15 different species of trees, flowers, and shrubs within about 5 minutes. So it's not a hard thing to do. The identification is a different story, but to find 15 different species is not hard to do. You are going to be lucky in a way in that there are many of the flowers that are flowering right now. New England aster is in bloom right now. Jewelweeds in bloom. Um, uh, uh, there's lots of others that are in bloom, so they will be easily identifiable because you can see their flowers. Okay, so um, uh, so hopefully we get out there. What's going to take you the time is actually documenting where you found these. I certainly would not suggest that you run through the woods and you take a whole bunch of photographs of a whole bunch of trees and other species and then sit down and try and identify them after the fact. It's going to be important that you keep detailed and accurate notes. So this is going to bring me to the next section of what or the next topic that I really want to discuss with you guys. And that is the importance of your field notebooks. Now, I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because I've came into into teaching here with you guys in your third year, so I don't know what you have done up to now. But if a couple of you could raise your hands, or all of you raise your hands, have you done anything in your environmental course regarding the keeping of field notebooks? Okay, so it looks like this is something that you guys are all familiar with. So I like to say, I wish I had $1 for every time I have sat in my office with a young field tech with a bunch of samples and a bunch of field notes, and we try and make sense out of the field notes of what they did when they were out in the field that particular day, and which sample goes with what particular field note. And then this can be a real issue for you if you once you've graduated and you're out in the environmental field. You need to keep detailed, neat, and accurate notes, and the notes need to be taken at the time the event actually happens, right? So we don't run into the woods tomorrow, take a whole bunch of photographs, a whole bunch of GPS coordinates, come back to the lab, and then sit and make out our field books. I do know that Professor Bianchet, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, will be touching base on field notebooks in your course tomorrow. She'll be going into it in more detail, so I'll leave the details of the nitty-gritty to her, but I will just like to emphasize the importance of your field notebooks. One thing that we do struggle with is that field technologists, especially with the advent of the cell phone, will take lots of photographs when they're on site, and they will use those photographs to support their field notes. But they don't document in the field notes where the photographs are from. So what I like to see in your field notebooks is when you find a tree tomorrow, is that you have the GPS coordinates of where you found it, you have what your preliminary identification is, and also what photographs relate to that particular species. So you would write photograph 1, photograph 2, photograph 3. And the way we do this, at least in our business, is that when you take photographs, 3 photographs or 4 photographs, or however many photographs of one item, that before you move on to the next one, you take a photograph that is essentially just a blank photograph. You can either hold your phone in your hand and take a photograph of your hand so it's dark, so that you can see that distinct split between your first set of photographs and your next set, because it becomes very difficult if you've taken a bunch of photographs to include in your report, that all of a sudden your report is due the next day, and you're sitting with 60-70 photographs and you're not sure if you have them mixed up. When we use digital cameras, what we do is in the field notebook, we want the field technicians to write the file number on the field notebook. So as I say, I spent lots of times with field technologists sitting in the office trying to recreate their notes uh, um, uh, after the fact to try and make some sense out of their samples. What I would say, as you progress through your careers, when there's a fantastic project comes up and it's up on the south shore of Hudson Bay and there's very little communication with your office, who do you think me as your boss or your project manager or your boss is going to send there? He's not going to necessarily send the smartest or the sharpest technologist. He's going to send the person that he knows is going to bring back very detailed notes and is going to be capable of working independently in the field. So it's skills that you really do need to learn. So I do have some hands up. Melissa, do you have a question? Let me just, I need to. Okay, so it looks so it looks like so Melissa's asking if do we need carbon copy lab notebooks or just regular notebooks? You'd need regular notebooks. Now, I did have a talk. I was speaking with the program coordinator last week, and apparently he is going to purchase field notebooks for us. I will pick them up tomorrow, and I will make sure that you guys have them. I would just say to you, make sure that you have a method of keeping notes in case that plan doesn't come to fruition. And this is something else that's very important as we do field work and as you guys get out there doing field work, is really have a backup plan. We get to the lab tomorrow and the professor who's the coordinator has not left those notebooks in my office mail slot. Be prepared. You need to have some type of book to be able to list this, to write this down. Okay, so make sure that you have something, but the plan is that I will be providing you with field notebooks. And Pratibha, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Pratibha. She has just informed me that there are some of us in first year. Thank you very much for that, Pratibha. That is certainly good information for me to know. I will certainly not assume that everyone is a third year student. So I will periodically ask to see your notebooks. There is no specific mark in the lab section for notebooks, but I will certainly look at your notebooks and I will give you feedback on your notebooks. And in some cases, if they are really terrible, we may look at deducting some marks off the submitted lab. But definitely a practice that you guys need to get into. You will hopefully, I say hopefully, because it's a very interesting experience to go through, not necessarily one that everybody wants to go through, but in your career, you may end up in court and they are going to look at those notebooks very carefully. So, and the unfortunate thing with that is when you're doing a project, you do not know ahead of time, generally speaking, if you're going to end up in court. You may find out, several months or even years in advance that you're going to go to court over a project you were involved in, and you need to be able to pull those. Reports. So Ria and Elisa have their hands up. I'm assuming that, would you like to unmute yourself, Ria, or would you like to put the question in the chat?
Hi, sir. Like in my announcement, it says that I have a lab on 14th of September. So do I need to come tomorrow too, or I just need to come on Tuesday?
No, you need to come on Tuesday. Now, So here's something. Thank you for bringing this point up, Ria. This is why this situation to me is less than ideal. But when you go onto DC Connect, right, you should see a homepage for your lecture section, but you should also see one for your lab section. Ria, if you go into your lab section, that lab section is specific to you and your class cohort that will be on the next Tuesday's lab, right? So you need to be monitoring that DC Connect page. Whereas the people, I believe Melissa and Aaron, I believe, and 10 others of you are in tomorrow's lab. So when you go into DC Connect, you're going to go into the lab page for Friday's lab. Okay, so no, you do not show up on your lab days that are off. We also have to be very careful regarding cross connection between the labs. I'm not sure exactly what the rules are, but you know, there were limits on how many people we could have in labs because of the pandemic. So you cannot just miss a lab and show up on the next lab. So hopefully that answered your question, Ria. You can lower your hand if it did. Elisa, you have a question? Would you like to text your question? Or let me just see if it's in the chat already. Elisa, if you have a question, can you unmute yourself and ask that question? Okay, we'll keep going. And if Elisa potentially is having some technical difficulties, but she can ask that question when she's done. So field notebooks, very important. Okay, must keep neat, accurate field notebooks with the notes made at the time of collection. You will be doing a section on field notebooks tonight with Professor Bianchet. She will go through it. For those of you who have lots of time on your hands, you could actually go to a local library and pull a book. It was written by Herman back in, I believe it was 1989, and it is known to be one of the top books on how to keep field notes. So I will actually contact the library and I'll see if they have it at the Durham College Library. And if they don't, if potentially they can have it if any of you are interested in going there and taking a look at it. So talking about books, because I graduated from Durham College probably before most of you were even born, we have these apps that we used to use extensively, and you guys probably maybe not so familiar with them, but books. And I still do most of my research identification through you know, hard copy books that I have in my hand. And I would actually encourage you, where possible, to you know, yes, you can use Nature ID to very quickly get an ID on something, but you know, look at some reference books and try and get an understanding of why is that a little leaf linden, because that is also another another very important um, um, trait to have. Okay, I believe that's it. We've answered everyone's questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a bit of a break. Okay, we'll take a 10-minute break, and then we will come back at 10 after, and we will continue from there. Okay, all right. Okay, so if you guys can, I will. So what I will do is I will just stop my video. Okay, so if you're all back on by 10 after, we'll get going then. Okay, thank you. Okay, so it's 10 after, so we'll get going again. As we move forward through the lectures, yes, we will have a brief uh, discussion about the labs and the upcoming labs, but I don't anticipate that it's going to be it's going to take a large chunk of time out of the lecture portion. So not all lectures will be like this, where it will probably be an hour and a half into this before we actually start to look at the lecture course material. Okay, so one other thing I want to go back to speak about when we're out in the field. I believe the first 4 labs we're out in the field will be in the forest for the most part behind Durham College. And I did mention that I found it a little disheartening when I was back there about the number of the quantity of invasive species that are back there, and some of them highly invasive species like dog strangling vine, Phragmites. If you don't know what they are, maybe ask me tomorrow and next Tuesday to point them out to you. But what is important as we're doing our field work for this lab, maybe for the other labs that you're doing, and certainly when you graduate and you're out there doing field work, is the transfer of invasive species. So I actually hold a permit with the Ministry of Natural Resources that allows me to trap and ban American kestrels. And 2 years ago, in that permit, they started putting conditions on those permits, and we're seeing it actually quite frequently now, is that to take all precautions to avoid the transfer of invasive species. Phragmites and dog strangling vines are particularly problematic because they spread so easily through seeds. So what I would ask you to do is, when we're done these labs in the forest, as you come out of the forest, if you can just take a look at your pant legs, take a look at your shoes, if you have mud on your shoes, take a look at your jackets, make sure that you have no seeds or no dirt from the forest adhering to your clothes, and if it is, that they get removed there, because if we go in there, we will be in contact with dog strangling vine. What you don't want to do is then go to your favorite little woodlot somewhere, and before you know it, you've dropped some seeds from dog strangling vine. So we want to take every precaution we can that we do not transfer invasive species from one area to the next. Right? Okay. So we are going into the field starting tomorrow. Okay, so we are going to take a look at the field work safety. So there's a field work safety module along with an associated quiz. Some of you may have done this already if you were doing labs that were outside, but some of you definitely will not have taken this already. So we're going to do that. We're going to do that now. You must do this component and pass this quiz in order to be allowed to go out into the field. So I believe there are some people missing from this lecture. So they're going to have, if they're in tomorrow's lab, they're going to have to somehow get this module and the associated quiz done before we go out into the field. All right, so I will share my screen again. Let's see if I can. I just have to find the correct screen that I need to share. Okay, so let's share it here. Nope, that one's not going to work. This is one disadvantage to having so many screens open on your computer. Just bear with me for one moment while I locate the screen that I need to be sharing. Just give me one moment here. I'm not sure why my option to share this particular screen is not here. Try this one. Okay. So we're going to go to content on DC Connect. And well, that was a bit of a challenge, but so can you guys all see this on my screen? Safety considerations for outdoor field work. Somebody would like to just, anyone raise their hand if they can see that on my screen? Okay, yep, okay, so we have it. So we're going to go through this module. It is a very important module to make sure that everyone remains safe while we're out there doing field work. As I say, some of you may have done this before, but others may not. Okay, so the primary hazards when we're working outdoors in the field are, and there are many of them, but these are the main ones that we face, right? Insect bites, poisonous plants, water safety, weather conditions, and of course the other issues which kind of takes in everything else, right? When we're out in the woods behind the college, certainly insect bites, poisonous plants, water safety, unstable terrain are all going to be issues that we need to be cognizant of and careful when we're in there, right? So when we look at insect bites, tick bites are becoming very prevalent. Tick bites themselves are not becoming any more prevalent than they were. We have always had ticks in this area, and they have always bitten people. But what has developed over the last maybe decade or so is that these ticks, some of these ticks, are now carrying Lyme disease, right? So they are found in the Oshawa area. They're usually associated with tall grass or woodlands, which is essentially the habitat that we're going to be going into tomorrow. It says here that in 2019, approximately 40 residents in Durham region contracted Lyme disease from ticks. It's not a case of anytime a tick bites you that you will get Lyme disease, but the potential is there. So we want to be sure that we protect ourselves as far as much as possible, right? So to protect ourselves from ticks, and this goes for other biting insects, is use bug repellent containing DEET. A lot of people do not like to use bug repellents that have DEET in them, but it probably is about the only bug repellent that is highly effective for ticks and mosquitoes, right? If you're in wooded or tall grass areas, attempt to stay in the center of trails when possible. Wear light colored clothes so it's easier to spot ticks. So a lot of people doing field work now, they will wear light khaki pants so that they can just do a quick sweep of the pants when they're done, make sure there are no ticks on them. You know, wear long sleeve shirts, long pants, and closed footwear. Tuck your pants into your socks. Okay. Check yourself, family members, and pets for ticks after outdoor activities, and take a shower or bath within 2 hours of being outside to remove any loose ticks that are on your body. So tomorrow we definitely want to be wearing appropriate clothing to go into the woods. If possible, wear light colored clothing, but definitely long sleeve shirts, long pants, appropriate footwear. We want to be able to tuck our pants into our socks if at all possible, and that's to prevent ticks from getting to your ankle area. They can sometimes be the hardest ones to see because they get in up below you, the bottom of your pant leg, and you can't see them with just an easy quick sweep of your body. So tick removal, it's important, right, that if you have ticks attached to yourself, that they're removed within 24 to 36 hours, right? And there is a process for removing ticks. Use fine tip tweezers. You grasp the tick by the head and mouth parts as close to your skin as possible, and firmly but gently pull the tick out of your body. It's important that you use this procedure to remove ticks, because I know a lot of people who see a tick on themselves and their first inclination is to brush it off their body or to squish it on their hand. And what that does is it leaves the tick's head embedded in your skin, right? So the bottom point in tick removal says, place the tick in a dry seal container and take it to your local health department or healthcare provider. What I would say is, if you go home after tomorrow's lab and say later that night you happen to see a tick on your arm and it's embedded, that you definitely want to try and keep that tick. So once you've removed it, put it into some type of small container. It's my understanding, I checked the Durham Region Health website yesterday. They are not accepting ticks at this point in time for Lyme testing. So, but I would say definitely keep it. Just so that you have that for your record. And I would try to contact your health provider, your family doctor, or a nurse. The symptoms to look for, if you look in the bottom left, you'll see that there's a person's, I believe that's their leg or their arm. They have a large red bullseye. This is something that often develops with a tick bite, but not always. But if you, after being in the woods, see this type of rash develop on your skin, there's a pretty good chance that you have been bitten by a tick in the center of that bullseye. You can also experience fevers, chills, fatigue, headache, muscle or joint pain. I'm not sure how old you guys are. I'm not sure if Avril Lavigne is a singer that was that you guys are aware of or followed at all. But Avril Lavigne is a very high-profile case of a person who got Lyme disease from a tick bite, and it makes for interesting reading if you go on and you look at her struggles to be diagnosed with Lyme disease. So I have a question for you, and maybe we will try and do this. We'll try and do this as a poll. How many of you guys are comfortable that you could identify a tick if it was on your body? So if we were in the woods tomorrow and we come out and you looked at your arm, would you be comfortable that you could identify a tick? Okay, so it looks like the vast majority of you are comfortable that you could identify a tick. There are lots of insects out there that look like ticks, but aren't ticks. But you're better off to go along with the assumption that they are ticks. There is a small uh, photograph. There is a small photograph on the left side of this box that shows a tick on a person's finger. And if I can just take you to this, this was a photograph of me about 4 weeks ago, where I'd been in the woods. I did a quick sweep of myself, didn't find any ticks, went into my vehicle, and this is what I saw on my hand. So in a situation like this tick is usually just out of the vehicle, brush it off yourself, because as you can see, the head of the tick is easily visible. If a tick has started to bite you, its head is can be almost completely buried in your skin where it's bitten you. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing that and go back to this one. Okay, so that's Lyme disease. Of course, mosquito bites. Mosquitoes in this area are now carrying West Nile virus. It's important to protect yourself against West Nile virus. I do know from monitoring Durham Region's website that there have been some ticks in the area, mosquitoes just recently in the area that have been tested and have West Nile virus. West Nile virus is it's an illness that it's not common, but there is a very, very small portion of the population that once they've been bitten by a mosquito that's carrying West Nile, and that they will get West Nile virus. West Nile was actually more of an issue for our native birds and some of our native animals, but it's definitely something we want to be aware of. We want to wear insect repellent, and we do not want to, where possible, have mosquitoes biting us, right? So bee stings are painful and can cause an allergic reaction in some people. Some people have allergic reactions to bees. Other people have terror reactions to bees. My son takes terror reactions to bees, and even though he's 40 years old, will quickly leave a vehicle, whether it's in motion or not, if there happens to be a bee inside. So hopefully, if any of you are allergic to bees, you will know that, and you'll be able to carry the appropriate medication. If any of you do experience terror reactions to bees, just try and be cautious about it when you're out in the field, because there's nothing worse than being terrorized of a bee that's buzzing you when you're standing on top of an eroded bank at a creek. So poisonous plants. Poisonous plants used to be our most common poisonous plant was poison ivy. If you touch poison ivy with your bare skin, it can result in an itchy rash. When I talk about an itchy rash, most of the people I know of that's experienced poison ivy rashes, it's not just your normal rash. It is very aggressive, just horrible rashes. So we do want to avoid poison ivy. I know I have been going into the woods for many, many years, and I know I've been around poison ivy, and I've never experienced a rash. So whether that's because, I'm cognizant of it and I make sure I don't come in contact with it, or, maybe I just do not react like some other people will react. The other very common poisonous plants that we have in Durham region now. And unfortunately, both of these are invasive plants, but giant hogweed and wild parsnip. Giant hogweed, I haven't seen too much giant hogweed around, but wild parsnip, there's a lot of wild parsnip around in Durham region. I didn't see any in the woods when I was in there 2 weeks ago, but if I do see it, I will point it out to you. Like poison ivy, you want to avoid these plants where at all possible. Giant hogweed, it's usually fairly obvious when you've came across a giant hogweed because they really are massive plants. In this module, there is a link to a video from Durham region on harmful plants and how to deal with being around them. Water safety. We will be around water. Now, thankfully, most of the water that we will be around, the creek is fairly shallow in most of the areas where we will be, but people have drowned before in just a couple of inches of water. So, you know, we need to reduce the risk. If you're wading in deep or fast moving water, or if you're sampling from a boat, you should be wearing a personal flotation device. You know, follow proper safety procedures. You know, waist of the chip waders should be sealed around the body. Usually they have a belt to do that, and the reason for that is that if you do fall in the water, that, you know, it does somewhat block water from filling your hip waders, which by itself can create a drowning hazard. If you fall into a creek or water wearing chest waders, tuck your knees up so that the air in your waders will be trapped, buoying you up if possible, and use a back scullying action to reach shore, right? Delay sample collection during unsafe conditions, such as if there's high water or flood warnings, or if we've had heavy rain recently, or risk of thunderstorms. I have looked at the forecast. We're supposed to have a nice day on Friday, so we should be okay. But we did have, you know, 2 days ago, we had significant thunderstorms that occurred overnight, and the creeks were running high and fast. So we would definitely not do any sampling around the creeks if they were in that kind of situation. But when I'm there, I will look at the creek, and if I have any concerns, I will tell you to stay away from them. Okay. All right. Protection from the weather. This is something that I find young people are really on the ball with this day, especially with the protection from UV rays, right? As it's important to wear sunscreens when we're out in the woods, and also to protect ourselves from heat exhaustion. It's unlikely that anyone will suffer from heat exhaustion now, but if you're working on a site for 8 hours during the heat of the summer, you need to ensure that you're maintaining hydration, and that is through the consumption of approved drinks. When I say approved drinks, we usually mean things like Gatorade and water. Okay, so other safety considerations: always being prepared for accidents or injuries, right? On site, there should always be a first aid kit and at least one person trained in administering first aid. I am trained in administering first aid, so if anyone gets hurt tomorrow, if they just let me know, then we can deal with it. Always have a reliable method of communication. Always keep in mind that cell phones cannot always be relied on outside of major urban areas. You know, reduce your risk when working on stable terrain by wearing appropriate footwear, wearing whatever protective equipment is necessary. Ensure safe travel to the sampling location. Excuse me. Never work alone, and always let someone know where you are and when you will be back. It has been my experience that it always comes down to Murphy's Law, is that, you know, if an accident or an injury is going to occur, it's going to occur when you're in the most inappropriate place, where either you're a long way from help or your method of communication is limited. So we always want to be prepared for accidents to occur. And as I say, I have seen some really oddball accidents that you would never think to take into account when you leave to go into the field, but they do occasionally occur. And for that, because of that, you always want to exercise good judgment. I mean, that's something that when you're working in the field, you need to work smart. So always exercise good judgment, and wherever possible, do things in a safe manner. So there is a quiz associated with this, right? And this quiz has to be done before starting any outdoor labs, okay? You must get 80% on the quiz, okay? But multiple attempts are allowed. So let me just want to check something here. Okay, so the quiz is in the DC Connect page for the lecture portion. So you should all be able to find it there. Do you want to, would you like to do the quiz now? Or would you like to do the quiz when you have some time after your lectures? Keeping in mind that a group of you must have this quiz done before we go in the field tomorrow. So how would you like to handle that? Maybe a show of hands. Would anyone like it? Would you guys like to do this quiz now? Or okay, so looks like Aaron's the only one that's answered. He's saying that he'll do it in his break between classes. So yep, that is fine. If you guys want to do it in your break, or if if you feel that you can go into your DC Connect page and do it during the rest of the lecture, then that's fine as well. Okay, but like I said, you need to have this quiz done before we go into the field tomorrow, so I can be sure that you are aware of all these safety considerations. There are, I believe, about 10 people in the lecture component, the lab component, that are not on this lecture Zoom. So I will need to either contact them, or if you guys happen to know who they are, let them know that they need to go through that module and do that quiz before they show up at the lab tomorrow. Okay, all right. So that's it as far as field work and safety. I'm just going through my notes just to make sure that we've covered everything that we have. So one thing that I thought, excuse me, that I would throw out there, just for interest's sake, is in the last week or so, did any of you guys hear any what I would say it would be significant environmental news that would have any connection to your environmental program or any connection to the environment in general? So if any of you heard any significant news that you thought might be interested and you might be dealing with in your courses, throw it in the chat. And just let me see if any of you heard anything. Anyone? No one? No one heard any significant news that you thought to yourself, boy, that's interesting, and maybe we'll deal with that in some of our upcoming courses? No? Okay, well, I mean, excuse me. The first thing that I heard approximately a week ago, that is interesting from our work in the environmental field, was the rainfall in New York State from the remnants of Hurricane Ida. This is something that you guys are going to deal with fairly extensively in your engineering course. I believe that you have your engineering course this semester, if not this semester, maybe next semester, in which stormwater management will be a major component of that. So stormwater management, and how do we manage it in a way that we can at least minimize what happened in New York State on September the 2nd. And essentially what happened in New York State is that they got 76 millimeters of rain per hour for a fairly extended period of time. The total rainfall event resulted in between 170 and 240 millimeters of rain falling on New York City. If we were to put that in perspective, we got 52 millimeters of rain during that thunderstorm event that lasted 2 nights ago, and that went for most of the night. So we got 52 millimeters, they got up to 240 millimeters. And the issue with that, and the issue we face, is that our infrastructure is not designed to deal with that kind of water. We cannot direct it away from paved areas and built up areas to areas where it can be stored and released safely. Because when cities were developed, it just was not part of their planning process. But it is now, and this is going to be a big field in the environmental field, is how do we make our infrastructure more resilient against these type of rainfall events? And we always have to consider, had Hurricane Ida tracked just a little to the north, we could have experienced those type of rainfall events here in southern Ontario. So heavy rainfall events, big issue. It's something that we deal with a lot in our environmental consulting business. And the other big piece of news that I heard this week that actually amazed me is that Algeria removed lead from all of their gasoline last week. So there is now no place in the world where you can purchase gasoline that contains lead. And as I say, that actually amazed me a little bit because in North America, we had lead out of gasoline by at least the late 1980s, but it is an issue that we continue to face as environmental professionals, because if we take surface samples in areas close to major highways, we will still find elevated concentrations of lead in surface soils because of the presence of lead in gasoline. So I just thought I would throw that out there to see if you guys are paying any attention to any of these news events that we see. Okay, so we do have, hold on one sec. Yeah, Rocky Mountain glaciers are melting. Again, a major issue. Yes, Rocky Mountain glaciers are melting, but they're also melting extensively in Greenland. An environmental conservation has bought up 67,000 acres south of Bancroft. That is something that I did not personally hear myself, but yeah, I mean, it's something that I believe we need to be doing much more of. Coming back to Aaron's comment about glaciers melting, I believe last week they actually managed to identify an island that's present in one of the glaciers in the Arctic that no one knew it was there because it was covered by ice. Now it's so it is an important issue. I actually do a lot of work with the Oak Ridges Marine Conservation Trust, and they will buy and they get donated significant tracts of land on an annual basis that they maintain in a natural area. So Ria, you asked to please clarify that. You want me to clarify what my question to you guys was? You can unmute yourself, Ria, and ask me what you need to have clarified.
Some of our students has like they have lab at 1 p.m. and your labs are on like 12 and 10. So they are asking that how will they manage to attend the classes? And obviously we have 2 labs. Like I have announcement that I have a lab tomorrow too, and another lab is on Tuesday. So I got confused that which lab I should attend.
Okay.
And there are some of students like me that we share a same schedule.
Yeah. Okay. So what I will do is after this, I will I will go back onto DC Connect and just try and see if I can somehow clarify who's in the Tuesday group and who's in the Friday group a bit better. The one thing that the instructors did not do was that the instructors are not the ones that give you access to your DC Connect pages. So if you are in a Tuesday lab group, you should only be able to access the Tuesday lab. And if you go to your timetable, you should only see the Tuesday lab on your timetable. So I think what I'll do is when we're over this lecture, I will send an email to the Friday group telling them you need to be in lab on Friday, and I'll send a separate email to the Tuesday group. Okay. I don't know, you're saying that you have a, excuse me, a lab at noon and then another lab that starts at 1. I don't understand how we would have that kind of conflict, but if that's the case, you certainly want to be trying to straighten that out with the administration. Ria, what lab do you have at, you said you have a lab at noon tomorrow? What lab do you have at noon tomorrow?
It isn't mine, it's Vishal says to you, not me. Vishal
Yeah.
has lab on 10, and he has another lab at 1 p.m. tomorrow.
Okay, so what lab does he have at 1 p.m. do you know?
Oh, he is in the class, so I don't know why he isn't speaking.
Okay, this is Vishal. Vishal, what lab do you have at 1 o'clock tomorrow? Okay, so what you need to do, you all need to go take a look at your calendars, your class schedule on DC Connect, and also take a look at your DC Connect pages. And if there's any confusion as to which one you're supposed to be in, then let me know. Lisa, Lacey, and Melissa, Aaron, yeah, they're all confirming. They're all confirming, you know, that you can simply go and check check your labs on your schedule. So it should be an easy thing to do, is to just go and check. And I would say if you do have a conflict there with a lab, that you have 2 labs scheduled for the same time, you need to address that, because it's my understanding that all labs attendance is compulsory. Okay, I just okay, so Kurt has just sent something to the group, and I believe from the name of it, it's the Friday lab list, right? So if you just download that PNG image that Kurt has shared, you will be able to see who is in the Friday lab group, and if your name is not on that list, then you're in the Tuesday list. Okay.
Yeah, I think the third year students have labs on Friday, and we are first students, so we do have it on Tuesday, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying first year, are you a fast track student?
Yes, we all are fast track students.
Yeah. So that would explain why you would be in a third year lab, right? Because you have a compressed schedule. I'm just scrolling back. Dennis said, how often do you see ticks attached to clothing? Unfortunately, more often than I would like to. You know, what's more of a concern to me is how often do we not see ticks attached to our clothing, and they are there, right? Ticks are very difficult to see on blue jeans. Unfortunately, when you see me tomorrow, I will be wearing blue jeans, but I will give myself a very careful check. Yeah, so we see it often enough that it is a concern, and we need to be on top of it. Okay. When we're working, you guys will probably work in groups. The labs are independent unless I tell you otherwise, but you will probably be together, or at least closely together, while we're moving through trying to find these 15 species. What I would like to see is spread out a little bit, so not everyone congregated in one group taking photographs of the same species. It's going to be awful boring for me to be looking at. I believe there's 32 students in the labs, to be looking at 32 labs with the identical species in them. So try and find some unusual species that will make it interesting from your guys' perspective, and also for mine. So I think I've done the best I can on the clarification of the labs, and we've had some helpful hints posted there by some of the other studios. I mean, definitely reach out to me if you have any other questions. So there is 9 minutes left in this lecture. So it really is. What I think I'll do is I will leave the start of the first lecture until the lecture next week. And what I'd like to do is just open it up to, are there any questions about absolutely anything before we leave the lecture? Anything about how the courses are going to work? Anything about me personally? Anything about anything that you think I may be able to answer for you? So Aaron has put his hand up. So Aaron, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question. Ideally, I would like to see you guys, if you have a question, to unmute yourself, and then okay, so Aaron's asking, will assignments be submitted digitally, or will you accept paper? The plan is for the majority of them to be submitted digitally. I know in the past, when this course has been ran, that a lot of them are set up to be submitted digitally. Because that question has been asked, I would suspect that there's at least some preference there amongst the student group as to how they submit them. Maybe just a show of hands, who would like to submit digitally, and who would, if they had the option, like to accept this paper. So let's do digitally first. Who prefers the digital method? Okay, now how? So yes, put your hands down, and who would prefer to do it by submitting paper copies? So it looks like the majority of the class would like to do it digitally where at all possible. So as I said, I do know from looking at the course outline that a lot of them are set up to submit digitally. If we do decide that we're going to submit labs on paper, and if it is a multi-week lab, I will check your labs before you leave, and I will probably just initial them so that we know what is being submitted. This is one thing that I would also like to emphasize. I did teach about half the engineering labs last semester, and that was amazing how many labs I got submitted to me that were identical in every way, shape, or form. I actually had one lab where a question, everyone had it right, and everybody, and actually it was 9 students, all 9 of them scored out the correct answer and put the wrong answer down. So when we see that, the labs are supposed to be independent. Yes, you can work with lab partners, but your lab work needs to be done independently. And I can answer all of your questions on the labs, and I can do the labs for you by answering those questions. But I'm not going to do that because you need to be able to understand the labs and you need to be able to do it yourself. So I will help you. If you have questions, feel free to ask them. But if it's a very specific question as to how you would come to an answer, I'll probably just request that you figure it out yourself. Oh, so this is a very interesting question that I need to take. It came to me as a direct message, and I should be able to see this when I download the chat who sent it to me. It's actually coming up without a name. So what I'm going to ask that person to do, just so I can be sure that I can address this, is can you send me this question directly to me in an email, because I need to address this with the college administration. I would suspect that you're in the Tuesday group, so we should be able to address it before your lab on Tuesday. Visna, I'm doing my best to pronounce everybody's names. Maybe just bear with me. You guys, this is loaded in your guys' favor. You have one name to remember. I have a whole bunch. But Visna, shall we obtain our own GPS for the coordinates? Yeah, we expect you to get your own GPS coordinates. If you have a cell phone is capable of giving you GPS coordinates. So use your cell phone. If you have access to a GPS unit, bring a GPS unit and get them from your GPS unit. And if all else fails, you can always go on to Google Earth and place a pin at where you were located and get the GPS coordinates from there. Will we have to submit our notebooks as well? So Melissa asked this a question: would you like us to add it to the report separately? So what I would like you to do is, if possible, if we're submitting digitally, to submit digital copies of your notebook so I can just take a look at them. So if we're submitting digitally and you have field notes associated with that lab, submit them digitally. Other than that, probably what I will do is I'll just randomly ask if I can see your notebook. So please refrain from writing things in your notebook like hopefully we won't have to put up with this professor for the whole semester. So I mean, just keep your notebooks strictly to field notes. Okay, so I think we have addressed all the questions. This might be hard to understand, but for the person that posted that text about attendance to the lab, does this just impact you? Do you know, or is there other students who feel they are not going to be able to be in the lab on Tuesday? Okay, so it sounds like the majority of the students are going to be in lab except this one. Okay, I just want to quickly scroll back. Okay, yeah, so I would just encourage you before we go, get online, do that quiz as soon as possible. If any of you don't see that quiz, get in contact with me right away, because as I say, I will be reluctant to take anyone into the field tomorrow that has not done that safety quiz. Okay, all right, okay, so thanks folks for attending, and thanks for putting up with some of the minor issues. I believe there were minor issues we had with Zoom. And again, that person that said the technical issues, if they could just send me a quick email, tell me what the technical issues were, so that I can see if I can resolve that. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much.